I'm... I'm sorry. The words slip out quietly, almost disappearing into the air before they can reach anyone's ears. They don't sound like a confession. They sound like surrender. The black boy stands frozen in the middle of a vast office where silence is sharper than shouting. Glass walls, polished floors, everything expensive, everything cold. Across from him stands a billionaire, a man used to control, used to power bending situations in his favor, used to people explaining themselves loudly when they are afraid. But the boy does none of that. His eyes stay lowered, his hands are clenched so tight they shake, not from guilt, but from experience. Experience has taught him that excuses don't work when the world has already decided who you are. Something valuable is missing, something that does not just disappear. Security has searched, voices have risen, suspicion has moved quickly, smoothly, and landed exactly where it always does. Here, on the boy. The apology hangs there, unfinished, like it wants to take something back, like it wants to say more, but knows better. The billionaire watches him in silence. This is not how things usually go. Usually there are stories, fearful words, desperate promises. But this boy offers only 2 words, carried on a breath that feels too small for a room this big. I'm sorry. The boy isn't crying. That's what feels strange. His face is calm in a tired way, the way people look when they've already imagined the worst and accepted it. His shoes are worn thin. His clothes don't belong in this place, and neither does his voice. He looks like someone who has learned to stay invisible until blame makes that impossible. The floor beneath him reflects his image, small, still, surrounded by wealth that has never noticed him until now. The story drifts, just for a moment. Early mornings, long walks, work done quietly, meals counted carefully. A life where mistakes cost more if you don't have money to soften them. A life where saying sorry is safer than asking why. Back in the office, the billionaire finally moves, not toward the door, not toward the phone, just one step closer. He studies the boy, not the accusation, the boy. He notices how straight he stands, how he doesn't look around for help, how he takes responsibility without understanding if it belongs to him, how those 2 words feel heavier than they should be. The billionaire has heard countless apologies in his life. Most were empty, some were strategic, others were lies. This one is different. This one feels practiced, learned early, repeated often, a word shaped by fear, not guilt. The silence stretches until it starts to hurt. The boy swallows, says nothing else. He knows better than to explain when no one is asking. He waits because waiting is what people like him learn to do. And in that moment, something shifts. Not in the boy, in the man standing in front of him. Because power can recognize defiance, but it doesn't always know what to do with dignity. The billionaire feels it then. Unease, a quiet discomfort settling in his chest, a sense that this apology is not for a missing object, but for a life spent apologizing in advance. The boy thinks this is the end. He doesn't know he has just spoken words that money cannot erase. He believes he is about to be punished, unaware that his apology has just forced the billionaire to face something he's avoided. The room closes in like a judge's chamber. Security lights hum. Footsteps echo on marble. Men in suits move with the ease of people who never fear consequence, until now. The boy stands where they told him to stand. He breathes slowly, not from calm, but from something older, habit. He has learned to make himself small when responsibility is handed to him, like a burden that wasn't his to carry. They ask questions that sound polite, but are sharpened by certainty. The billionaire listens more than he speaks. His voice is a tool he uses rarely now. He prefers watching. The boy answers nothing. Silence is his shield. It costs less than a defense and costs less than hope. Images flicker on a screen. Footage from cameras placed everywhere. The world watching the world. Hands reach. A shadow moves. A package leaves its place. People lean forward, hungry for proof. They replay the moment, frame by frame, searching for guilt. The boy watches the loop the way someone watches a storm pass and feels powerless to change the wind. He remembers other loops, mornings where his brother wakes hungry, nights where the kettle sits empty. He remembers the day his brother's cough turned into a constant ache, the way medicine costs more than silence. He remembers promises he made with all the stubbornness of a child who sees no other way out. Apologize now, he had taught himself. Protect what matters later. A guard steps closer, fingers tap on a device. Questions fall like raindrops. The boy lets them hit. Each one soaks into him and sinks. He has practiced this apology like a prayer, simple, repeatable, an offering that costs him less than the truth. He gives it because the world is better at punishing small lives than at finding the guilty. The billionaire watches the boy's hands, calloused, steady, stained with small, honest labor. He notices the way the boy's jaw tightens when someone says the word steal. He notices the boy's eyes, not frantic, not defiant, only tired. Memory arrives without warning, a younger version of himself waiting outside a hospital, a bill in hand, a debt that flavor his father's silence. He had promised himself then never to stand where helplessness lingers. Power was supposed to be the answer. Control was supposed to protect. But power has its blind spots. It assumes the worst from those it counts as less. It mistakes apology for guilt and silence for admission. It forgets to ask one quiet, necessary question. Why would a child give up his voice to shield something else? Someone finds a receipt, a timestamp, a cleaner's route note, small things that carry truth in their edges. The footage shows a different hand, older, gloved, practiced, slipping away in a moment no one expected. The room shifts. The certainty that built itself around the boy begins to crack. The billionaire feels the crack like an ache behind his sternum. He has never been a man to hesitate. Yet hesitation comes now with the weight of the boy's apology. He wonders what his hands would do if he reached for the phone, call for release or for punishment. He imagines headlines, quick to condemn, slow to correct. He imagines the boy walking out, head lowered, carrying blame like a coat too heavy for his shoulders. Outside, the city moves on. Inside, the air has gone electric. The men around him exchange looks, some eager to close the case, others uneasy that their certainty may be false. The billionaire stands up from his chair and walks toward the glass wall. He sees his reflection layered over the street. A man of power looking down at a boy who learned to say sorry for survival. He realizes then that an apology from the small is also a test for the large. How the powerful answer defines more than the moment. It defines the kind of world they will keep. The boy waits, not for mercy, not for vindication. He waits because waiting has become as familiar as breathing. And the billionaire, who can erase mistakes with checks and signatures, realizes he cannot erase the sound of those two words, said by someone who has already given up the right to be believed. He is about to decide whether to punish the boy for a fault he did not commit, or to undo a lifelong habit that has kept him safe from his own conscience. Either choice will change them both. The screen goes quiet for a moment, as if the world is listening. Footage has shifted the room's mood from accusation to question. The billionaire stands at the edge of the polished floor, a figure cut in glass and steel, and for the first time, his reflection shows more than a suit. It shows a man surprised by his own hands. Someone in the security team mutters about procedure. Lawyers clear their throats. Cameras pick up every small movement like a confession. The billionaire does not reach for the phone. He steps toward the boy instead, not with the brusque authority of power, but with the awkwardness of someone learning a new language, accountability. He speaks to the room. His voice is lower than anyone expected, steady but stripped of performance. He names the facts as they are unfolding, not as they suit him. He says the word mistake. The guards look puzzled. The men who had sharpened their certainty exchange glances that feel suddenly thin. He asks that the case be reopened. He asks for the recordings to be reviewed with no shortcuts. He calls for the people who were paid to make judgments fast to stand down until truth arrives. It sounds small, procedural, but in a place where reputation is currency, asking the system to breathe is revolutionary. They find the evidence: a gloved hand, a pattern in the ledger, a route slip that never matched the boy's path. Names come up, not of the helpless, but of those who presumed they could make others lesser to protect their own mistakes. The room's certainty collapses like an old wall. The billionaire's admission becomes louder than any accusation ever was. He does one more thing that surprises everyone. He steps down from his high-backed chair and walks to where the boy stands. The distance between them is small and impossible to ignore. He does not look for applause. He does not offer a check or a speech framed in headlines. He stoops, not to make the boy seem smaller, but to remove the height that power uses as a shield. He says, "Sorry." The sound of it in that room is not an echo of pity. It is an act that rearranges the furniture of power. He says he was wrong to let assumption do his work for him. He says he will take responsibility for the consequences of his rush to judgment. He names the boy aloud, giving him back the dignity that had been taken by silence. The boy listens. His shoulders that have carried so many apologies remain tight, but the lines around his eyes soften. He had prepared for a different ending: punishment, dismissal, a life hardened by another wound. Instead, he hears accountability and the rare promise of change. The billionaire announces real steps, not charity masked as generosity, but structural corrections, audits, clearer procedures, a promise to employ people who will listen before they judge. He offers the boy something practical: support for school, a job that pays a fair wage, a place where his work will be seen and named. He says this without theatrical flourish. He says it like a man arranging a difficult apology into action. Outside the glass walls, the city keeps moving, but inside the world shifts in ways money cannot calculate. News will have headlines. People will talk about the billionaire who did the unthinkable. Yet the change that matters happens quietly. A boy who no longer needs to apologize for being small. A man who learns that power includes the obligation to correct when it errs. The boy does not leap at the offer. He accepts it the only way he knows, slowly, with the guarded hope of someone who has learned that trust must be earned twice. His first small smile is private, like a secret the room is allowed to witness. Later, when the lights dim and the building returns to its usual hum, the billionaire stands alone for a moment. He looks at his hands, at the stain on his coat that will be cleaned, and understands that not all stains wash away with water. Some stay to remind you of what you chose when you had the power to choose otherwise. The apology that began on a breath becomes a decision that asks more than money or image. It asks change. Sometimes the hardest thing for the powerful is to admit they were wrong, and the kindest thing for the powerless is to keep their voice when someone finally